AccessiBe has been sued. Last month, on June 26th, a class action complaint was filed in the United States District Court for the Southern District of New York. This complaint was very well researched. So, what we're going to do today is go through several excerpts from this complaint. I will add my commentary on those excerpts. We'll also be going over the potential effects of this lawsuit on the digital accessibility industry, and in particular on vendors who are selling overlay widgets. Right now, we are on classaction.org. The heading on the page is AccessiBe lawsuit claims AI web accessibility software can't ensure ADA compliance as advertised. The plaintiff is Sherwin, Parikh, and the summary here is a class action alleges AccessiBe has falsely advertised its software products as capable of making a website fully compliant with ADA standards for online accessibility. And the categories here are false advertising, fraud, and AI. So I'm going to now tab over to the actual complaint filed in court. I will link directly to this complaint as well as the page that I was just on classaction.org. For now, let's go through this complaint, starting with the introduction in paragraph 1. It reads, plaintiff brings this action seeking damages caused by AccessiBe's misleading and false representations in its advertising, its direct marketing, its standard form correspondences with customers, and in its standard form contract regarding its quote-unquote overlay products that purport to adjust any website's underlying code to ensure that the website meets all legal and regulatory standards needed to comply with Title III of the Americans with Disabilities Act. Plaintiff further seeks injunctive relief that would require AccessiBe to discontinue its deceptive practices. So some background here. As soon as overlay widgets arrived on the scene, I distinctly remember many accessibility professionals speaking out against them. And that has continued to be the case over the years, although it's less so now just because everyone knows where everyone stands on this. But originally, the discussion and the framing somehow became that these professionals saw AccessiBe as competitors and they were jealous, and that basically it was kind of like your time has passed you by. We've got this new technology and it's so advanced and we can do all of this through automation and you can't. So you're haters about this. You're jealous. These are competitors speaking out against us. And so that was the original discussion and framing when overlay widgets arrived on the scene. And of course, I think AccessiBe was first. I don't remember, but AccessiBe was among the first. And then, of course, as overlay widgets have experienced success, more and more have joined the fray. And so this lawsuit could have really devastating impact on the overlay widget sellers. And I think if this is seen through, this could be the end of overlay widgets. But even for now, even just the lawsuit alone being public and being discussed, this is already very damning for overlay widget sellers, because they have existed based on really marketing and getting out their message, being the first, and really not having necessarily anything formalized against them. Although Overlay Fact Sheet and OverlayFalseClaims.com have done a really good job of bringing forward information, it hasn't been enough to where consumers have been dissuaded from purchasing overlays. But more on the materials put out in a moment. But for now, let's continue scrolling through this complaint. We get into some background information on the World Wide Web Consortium, the Web Content Accessibility Guidelines, some of the laws that are in play, the background in terms of the legal landscape. And then we get to paragraph 6, where it states, the process of remediating a website to ensure ADA compliance requires significant time and effort and can cost tens of thousands of dollars. Yes, this has always been the case. It is still the case today. It just requires a lot of time and effort. To date, as the market stands, there's been no technology that has transcended things to the point where we don't have to worry about manual efforts. Still, there's a significant time and effort is involved. The paragraph continues, in 2018, defendant AccessiBe began marketing quote-unquote overlay products that it claimed obviate the need for the labor-intensive process of manually remediating a website to comply with WCAG standards. So this gets into, sometimes when you come across something that is making very bold claims, you have to ask yourself, is this actually true, or is it claimed to be true? So we need demonstrable evidence that this is actually true. And part of the problem is when it comes to accessibility, many consumers are being educated as they are being sold. And this is beyond just overlay widgets. The digital accessibility industry in general, there have been many companies who are painting a picture that is inaccurate and painting their quote unquote solutions in a light that is inaccurate and misleading and leads consumers to believe that these different solutions will do more than they actually do and really help further the objective efficiently and effectively, which they don't. So this has been something that has plagued the accessibility industry for quite some time, and it goes beyond just overlay widgets. Continuing on, the paragraph reads, AccessiBe claims that its product that it calls a widget and markets as an access widget can be installed in a matter of minutes, and then employs artificial intelligence and automation to repair a website's underlying code to render a website consistent with WCAG standards such that it ensures ADA compliance within 48 hours. AccessiBe further claims that its product using artificial intelligence will continue to automatically ensure ADA compliance and will thereby shield a subscriber from lawsuits alleging ADA violations. So keep in mind when we're reading about artificial intelligence, AccessiBe was claiming that they had artificial intelligence as a part of their widgets in some form or fashion years before ChatGPT broke onto the scene. And we saw AI rise to prominence in really starting in the fall of 2023 and then continuing forward. So keep in mind that these artificial intelligence claims have been happening for quite some time. Paragraph 7 reads in part, AccessiBe's claims about the efficacy of its products are overstated, and many of its specific representations are materially misleading and false, as it's guarantee that its products will ensure that a website is ADA compliant. AccessiBe's fundamental claim is that installing its widget will, in and of itself, ensure that a website will meet WCAG recommendations and ADA compliance. This is simply untrue. So part of AccessiBe's problem with this lawsuit is everything has been online, right? So some things may have gone away, but there are screenshots, there are recordings, there are podcasts. Some of the screenshots are in this complaint. So some of these are right there. We don't have to look any further. It's not a point of contention. It's a matter of fact. And so this has been happening. So really, if AccessiBe wants to get into a defense here, it's going to have to demonstrably prove that its claims were true. And so that's going to be one demo that you won't want to miss. And of course, coming back to Carl Groves, Carl has spent a lot of time documenting how overlay widgets don't make your website accessible. And we see the evidence on overlaysdon'twork.com, overlayfactsheet.com, and overlayfalseclaims.com. And there may even be another website. Adrian Rosselli has also spent dozens of hours, if not hundreds, documenting AccessiBe and other overlay widgets and their claims and how they are demonstrably untrue, and doing so with facts. So this is all online. I'm sure this complaint relied upon those resources to, or the plaintiff's law firm in this case relied upon those resources when constructing this complaint. And so it's going to be very difficult for there to be a defense against this claim. The complaint continues, while its widget adds a line of code to a website and installs certain web accessibility tools, this is a far cry from meeting all or even most WCAG standards. Most accessibility issues remain unaddressed. And I would contend that all accessibility issues remain unaddressed because you must activate the widget for any of these superficial changes to be applied over the website. So if we have to activate a widget, the website itself remains inaccessible. And at that point, any of the superficial changes that would be rendered, we still have to then go and determine whether they're actually rendered correctly, which we know through many demonstrations that many of the changes don't actually result in the website issue, whatever the issue would be, being resolved. So there are just multiple problems and layers to the problem here when it comes to the widget actually doing what it is purported to do. And by the way, again, this is not just an AccessiBe thing. The paragraph continues, in many cases, installing AccessiBe's widget actually hinders accessibility in that AccessiBe's widget interferes with necessary accessibility technology tools widely used by users with disabilities. So we'll just go over a few more sections. And the reason why I want to cover more of this is just the complaint really lays out the what has happened, what has transpired, what the claims are, and what the points of contention are. Paragraph 8 reads, AccessiBe advertises that its products will lower the likelihood that customers will be sued for violations of the ADA. AccessiBe's claims in this regard are false. In fact, businesses that use AccessiBe's products are more likely to be the targets of lawsuits. And I have heard this echoed by both defense attorneys and plaintiffs lawyers that if an overlay widget is installed, they are more likely to target the website owner because that overlay widget signals something. And what does it signal? Well, let's continue reading on paragraph 8. With paragraph 8, use of AccessiBe's widget serves as a signal that a business has used a flawed shortcut to make its website accessible to people with disabilities, one that actually impedes visually impaired people from using the website. Paragraph 9 continues, as more fully described below, AccessiBe makes specific and material claims to induce businesses to purchase its web widget as an effective alternative to the work required to actually be ADA compliant. Among these inducements is the promise to provide legal support if the business ever faces legal claims that its website does not comply with the ADA. In truth, AccessiBe provides no substantive legal support. A business that faces a lawsuit must then spend tens of thousands of dollars on legal fees to defend against the very lawsuit from which AccessiBe promised to shield it. So yes, I have heard this from multiple other website owners. And in fact, I was on a webinar where one of the featured speaker was a webinar who had purchased AccessiBe and had a very similar experience to what is being described. So let's just continue down. This is a very a complaint worth reading. So we have some more details, and then we get into the factual allegations, which provide some backgrounds on people with disabilities, how they are accessing digital content. Then we have document object model discussion, hypertext, so HTML discussion. So it's just continuing on, setting up a background, talking about the web content accessibility guidelines. And then we get to paragraph 22. Experts in the accessibility field recommend first auditing a website for errors, both with automated tools as well as manual testing, followed by remediating the underlying code. Finally, they recommend additional manual testing that reviews a website's accessibility to people with different kinds of disabilities. A full audit and remediation can take weeks or even several months, and the cost is a minimum of several thousands of dollars, depending on the number of pages. So this actually gets to one of the areas that was always difficult to reconcile. It's like, why are there some accessibility sellers that are selling services for literally thousands of dollars? And then at the same time, there's also this widget seller who is telling me that they can take care of everything by installing this widget on my website. They can do so for however much the cost is a month. Let's say it's $50 or $500 a year, and it can solve everything in perpetuity because it can fix any new issues that arise. So continuing on, and then we have the prices for the different AccessiBe packages. Paragraph 24, AccessiBe claims its product is an effective, quick, and cost-effective alternative. And then, so I'm not going to read through all of this, just continuing down. We have paragraph, we have a section from the terms of service that states, installation of AccessWidget enables automatic addressing and resolution. This is, they bolded resolution, emphasis added there, of website accessibility issues. So there you have it in black and white text. Installation of AccessWidget enables automatic addressing and resolution of website accessibility issues. And then it talks about the different claims that AccessiBe has made. And I think this would be an interesting project, is just to put together different screenshots of AccessiBe's homepage using the Wayback Machine on archive.org. But so you have the various claims. If you're unfamiliar with them, again, the PDF will be linked. But then continuing on AccessiBe's website, there was a graphic at the bottom of the page. The complaint reads, with a check mark besides the following text: WCAG 2.1 compliance, ADA Title III compliance, Section 508 compliance, EAA and EN 301549 compliance, ACA/AODA compliance. So, I mean, there, the indication being you're going to be compliant with all of the laws. And so whether it was directly stated and at what time what was stated, the takeaway for many consumers is going to be, hey, I'm where I need to be. I'm going to be compliant with all of these laws. One interesting thing that I did not know until I read this complaint is on paragraph 29. In paragraph 29, it reads, AccessiBe sent direct marketing emails to wide audiences, similarly representing that its accessibility interface solves 30% of the ADA and WCAG 2.1 requirements instantly, and that the remaining 70% are solved within 48 hours on an automated basis using artificial intelligence. This is one part of this. I didn't know this, first of all. I didn't know how it worked out that you needed 48 hours to resolve everything. I would love to see a demo on this. So I think that would be the best defense. One of the best defenses here is show us a demo where you can actually demonstrate that you're not only remediating the issues that can be potentially flagged by a scan, essentially, but you're also remediating all of the other issues on the website. And with scans, 30% is even an exaggerated figure at that. When you actually look at it, it's closer to approximately 25% of accessibility issues can be flagged by a scan. But here again, with the widget, the claim is that they're not only going to find those issues but fix them, and then the remaining 70%, as outlined here, are fixed through automation using AI. And then we have a screenshot from a 2019 Facebook post. So let's just read the screenshot because it's in the complaint. There was a time when manual labor was the only solution to make a website accessible. Developers worked for weeks, sweated a lot, checked every note in hundreds of web pages, and collapsed on the bed at the end of the day. Today, there's a better way, an AI way that can do all the work for you. It's relentless, it's accurate, it's affordable. The choice to web accessibility just became super easy. And then there's a graphic with a brain with two sides of it and then AI on top of it. And then one of the sides is like looks wired to technology. And then there's another graphic where you have these different humans slaving away on what looks to be bricks. And then some of them are trying to drag the stone through rope, and they're pulling with all of their might. So it harks back to like possibly the like a depiction of the pyramids being constructed. So it's basically like one side is really advanced, the other is the slow way. And again, that's the narrative I was talking about earlier, where it's like some of these the legacy accessibility companies, their old ways are outdated and they just can't catch up. So paragraph 31 reads, the above claims are false. Leading experts in the field of internet accessibility overwhelmingly recognize that conforming any website to WCAG standards requires manual remediation that includes manual testing, which must continue as website changes over time. And then in paragraph 32, they actually make reference to overlay fact sheets. So in 2021, a group of professionals in the internet accessibility community issued an overlay fact sheet that evaluated what automated overlays, including defendants' products, can and cannot do. The document has been endorsed by more than 850 signatories that include accessibility experts, disability rights advocates, editors of WCAG, and end users with disabilities. Among other things, the fact sheet concludes that no existing overlay product on the market can cause a website to become fully compliant with any existing accessibility standard. Moreover, the fact sheet notes that using an automated overlay often runs counter to and interferes with accessibility tools on which people with disabilities commonly rely, and has a tendency to hinder many disabled persons' ability to navigate internet websites. The fact sheet concludes that overlay products like AccessiBes do not help visually impaired people access the web, but instead actually hinder their access. So one thing that I've come to realize is there really aren't that many accessibility professionals. So when you get 850 people signing to overlay fact sheet, and the overlay fact sheet takes a rather hardline stance when it comes to overlay widgets, and it does so, it arrives at that conclusion in a very methodical and logical way. So it's not like this is a flippant website with just information thrown out there. Carl Groves has structured this. He's taken a very nice approach to laying everything out, making it very easy to understand what he's talking about, why overlays don't work. He's created multiple resources on this, and Overlay Fact Sheet really is the ultimate website, and I will link to it in the description. But as I said, like Overlay Fact Sheet is if you are going to file this lawsuit, you would look at Overlay Fact Sheet. And again, I'm sure that they also went to Adrian Rosselli's blog, because his blog has been excellent throughout all the existence and the proliferation and the selling of overlay widgets. So one last thing here, I just keep going because like this complaint has so much good information. At present, practitioners in the field of website accessibility recognize that even the best automated software can only detect 30% of WCAG guidelines, and the remaining 70% cannot be assessed, let alone remediated with artificial intelligence, but requires human manual testing. For the following reasons, among others, AccessiBe's product cannot provide full ADA compliance for all users. And I would even go multiple steps forward and advance this. Even with the 30% detection, which again I said is 25, but even with 30% and detecting, it's flagging. It's not actually detecting because these issues aren't conclusive. We still need to manually review even that which can be flagged by a scan. But point taken, right? The complaint is making a point, and it's doing so in a very good way that lays it out so that anybody can understand this, even if you're not familiar with accessibility. So the claim that full remediation is possible, like AccessiBe just went way over into the extreme of on the other side of we can do this all. And I think over the years they actually started to backtrack on that, to where you saw some of the language as I've talked about, smoothing over and making it more broad, and then implying that the widget was just a part of all of your efforts, etc. So I'm going to stop reading this here because we've already gone on for 25 minutes, but this is going to have a real effect on the digital accessibility space. And digital accessibility companies now are going to have to rethink how they are marketing and these claims, because now we see someone has called an overlay widget out on their claims. And I don't, it's not, there are many, tied into the word solutions, there are many digital accessibility companies that are really painting what they offer in a light that is so positive that it actually exceeds the capabilities and really the selling points of their solutions. So what, and that was an awkward way to say it, but to restate that, there are many accessibility companies that are stating that their solutions and their technology, they're indicating that they do more than they do, and it's causing consumers to think that they can that these the different solutions provide more value than they do. I've talked about this in several videos, but now digital accessibility companies have to rethink their solutions messaging and what they're telling consumers, because a lot of consumers are relying upon the different marketing material and the salesmanship that these digital accessibility companies are espousing and getting behind. Now they have to rethink that. Do we need to pull back and start to change our messaging? So look out for that effect as one result of this lawsuit. This is a class action lawsuit. This can really, really hurt AccessiBe. And I think what will ultimately happen is this could actually shut down overlay widgets, like, for good. And I've stated before, I thought overlay widgets were done a long time ago. Because why? Because they're fundamentally flawed. And when something's fundamentally flawed, it's only a matter of time before the truth rises to the top, and it just doesn't pan out because it's fundamentally flawed. You can't get around that. And so it will be interesting to see how AccessiBe tries to defend against that, defend against the claims here. And it's going to be very difficult to defend against this complaint because there's so much evidence that plainly speaks for itself. There really isn't a controversy with the claims, many of the claims here that are being made. So it's going to be interesting to see how this is defended against. But I think this could be the end of overlay widgets. I think we will see some of them sunsetted and discontinued. And of course, the messaging won't be that this is because of this lawsuit, but this lawsuit will bring about change. I have been wrong in the past on when that the end would come. I wrote an article called "The Death of Accessibility Overlays" like probably 3 or 4 years ago. It did not happen then, but I think this now could be a turning point because we're going beyond just Carl Groves and Adrian Rosselli. Now this is in court. Now we're about to see if this complaint isn't settled, if this lawsuit isn't settled, and this is seen to the end. This can be very, very damaging to AccessiBe, and also digital accessibility companies that are misleading customers.